Welcome in. It is Big Ten Today. We are presented by Gatorade on this Monday. Truly great to have you with us, Dave Repson and Howard Griffith. I think it was Ferris Bueller who said it best. Life comes at you fast.
Yes.
And I think this Big Ten season has been a perfect embodiment of that.
It really has. A lot of things have been going on. We've watched Indiana go out and make a tremendous statement and announce their arrival, that they're not going anywhere anytime soon. And then also we saw what happened with Coach Fraklin yesterday and just how quickly the fortunes of a program can change. And it's one of those things that college athletics is where we are at this point in time.
It is amazing to think where they were 16, 17 days ago and where they are now. But that is the reality. That is our big story. It's the change at the top in State College. James Fraklin let go yesterday in the wake of a 22-21 loss to Northwestern, the third straight defeat for the Nittany Lions, who started the season ranked second in the country. It is a shocking fall for Fraklin. 2 weeks ago, again, Penn State was ahead of Oregon in overtime, and now he finds himself out of a job, midway through his 12th season. Penn State won a school record 13 games just one season ago. Uncharacteristic losses to the Wildcats and UCLA a week ago were Franklin's undoing. They had won 34 straight against unranked teams before dropping those two. The real story of his tenure, though, is going to be the inability to win the biggest games, just 4-21 against AP top 10 teams, including 15 straight losses against top 10 Big Ten foes. Associate head coach Terry Smith taking over as the interim head coach. Look, James Fraklin is a really good coach. I have no doubt that if he wants to work again as a head coach, he will be doing it in relatively short order. But I would also say, Howard, and we had this conversation on the way out Saturday night, it just felt like it was untenable. Like there's no way that he could have continued. The stated goals this year were to win the national championship. They're not going to make the college football playoff this year. And so you look at it now, you have Drew Aller out for the year. He would have had to do press conferences before and after every game. You would have had media availability with the players. It just didn't feel like you could move forward in this situation. And I think really Penn State was left with no choice.
And I think you heard the athletic director talk about it. The most important thing for him was as he refers to his kids in the locker room, as he refers to the student athlete, and putting him in the best situation for them to go out and have success. And part of that is, as you just mentioned, they would have been asked this question repeatedly. It had gotten to a point where it just was not going to work, and the two sides have gone their separate ways. And I think ultimately it's best for what they needed to do for the young people that are in the program to try to move things forward.
Put James's tenure there into perspective.
He took them to a place that they hadn't been in a very, very long time. He made them relevant on the recruiting trail. He made them, each and every one of those games, relevant. He made the whiteout really big. I mean, it was already big, but he really took it to another level because of the type of athletes that he was bringing in and the expectations. His expectations were to go out and win national championships as well, and it just didn't work. And you heard him talk about for the last maybe year and a half how everything had been aligned. You look at his coordinators that he had been able to bring in. He had done an unbelievable job, particularly on the defensive side, of being able to replace coordinators that have decided to move on for other jobs, and he was able to find ways to replace those guys. So he did a great job there. But it's one of those things, when you think about where Penn State was when he took over the program and where they are now, they are a national power to be dealt with. And they were at a time where things just were not good for Penn State, although Bill O'Brien did a tremendous job.
Yeah. I think you cannot not mention Bill O'Brien, right? We've had a front row seat to this whole thing.
We've seen it.
And it's been crazy. I mean, I don't think we could have ever predicted in 2007 we started covering this program on a day-to-day basis, everything that would happen to it. Bill did an amazing job. I will say James inherited, really through no fault of Bill's, a program which was really depleted, particularly on the offensive line. And in that time, before you could just get people immediately eligible through the transfer portal, it took time to build that. And so it took a while for James to be able to get it at the level where it could compete on the national stage, where they really could realistically be talked about as a national championship team. They were certainly close in the year 2016, the year they played for the Big Ten championship. And then they couldn't quite progress it from there, with last year being the highlight, winning a school record 13 games. Why do you think this year has gone the way that it has? What has happened here?
I think it's still going to take us some time to figure out what really has happened. When the other stories start to come out and you talk to players and you start to get an understanding of what was going on in the locker room and around the program. We get a chance to spend some time with the program, but not as much to be able, in my opinion, to be able to put our finger or our thumb on exactly where things went wrong for this team this year. Outside of the fact that the expectations, when people have talked about it, all the chips were pushed to the middle of the table. There was nothing that was left undone. Whatever they needed, they were able to go out and get, whether it was the players, whether it was coordinators, whatever it needed to be, they were able to go out, and he had the resources to get the personnel that he needed. And it just didn't work. You still have to go out and play the football games. You still have to be able to execute the game plan. We looked at this team in the first 3 weeks, and you can make the point where, we haven't seen them do certain things, right? There were things that we hadn't seen on the offensive side. We're still wondering. You could make the point that offensively they probably regressed a little bit from where they were last year. But then you look at defensively, and defensively they were playing so well until Oregon. And then all of a sudden it was like, maybe this isn't what we were seeing. But that, I don't know, is a direct reflection of what's going on in the corner office at the head coaching position. You still have to get young people to all be playing together and to understand what's happening in the program.
Right, and just for whatever reason, it looked out of sync. And to your point, I know a lot of people are going to want to point fingers at the offense, and that is fair. The offense has not lived up to the expectations. But frankly, neither has the defense. And you look at the way that UCLA and Nico Iamaleava kind of tore them apart. And then Northwestern, when they needed a stop, they couldn't get a stop. Northwestern's offensive line played great and kind of ran the ball down their throat there in the fourth quarter. I mean, it's systemic here. It was the entire thing.
I know that, we've got to keep moving, but I'll say this. So often as we watch football, we say from year to year, well, if this happens, we're going to be in the national championship.
Right.
When you start to look at when you bring all of these veterans come back, and they've made the decision to come back, and we watch what happened at Michigan, you watch what happened at Ohio State, those expectations are out there. And as a fan base, when you look at the program, you say, okay, they've got to take the next step because of this. This is what really happens. You don't always, just because everyone comes back, doesn't mean that you're going to have the success that you're hoping that you have.
We have talked a lot through the years that success is not always linear. And this needed to be a year where they went on a steady incline from year one to year two, from where it was last year to where it was this year. If they didn't do it, it was going to be deemed a failure, and they didn't do it. And here's the schedule ahead, and it's brutal. They go to Iowa City on Saturday, and then they have, in my opinion, maybe the two best teams in the country, Ohio State and Indiana back-to-back. It does get a little more manageable on the back end, but again, at this point, the season that they had hoped to have, they are flat out not going to have. So let's dive into the rest of the weekend results of the Big Ten. We do so via the big board. It was a full slate of games this weekend, remember. In addition to the Penn State loss, the other notable results, USC topping Michigan in the Coliseum, Iowa blanking Wisconsin at Camp Randall, UCLA wins its second straight, number one Ohio State still perfect after handling Illinois. But the biggest game was in Eugene, and Indiana made a statement, Howard, 30-20 over the Ducks. They end the nation's longest home win streak. I said this Saturday night. I'm going to say it again. This is a national championship caliber team, and they have to be viewed that way. Whether they're going to win it, who knows? They are good enough to win it. It doesn't matter what the name on the front of your jersey is. It doesn't matter that this is a program that has lost more games than any team in the history of major college football. Where we are right now is this is a national championship level team.
And something that I've never seen before.
It's amazing.
It is unbelievable what they've been able to do. And it all starts at the top. This is a well-oiled machine. They know exactly what they're expected to do, and they don't care where they go, who they're playing. They believe. And Dave, I keep going back to this because to me, it's so much more than the X's and O's. This is not even about the X's and O's. I really want to spend my time figuring out what buttons is he pushing on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, to get the players and the coaches to play and believe at such a high level? And that's not to say these are quality players.
Really good.
They are really good football
really good.
players. This isn't a
They
fluke.
were better on the line of scrimmage than Oregon was. Hard stop.
They're better this year than they were last year.
Yes.
And I thought that was going to be hard for me to believe when I was saying that earlier in the year, but they have continued to prove it. And when you talk about what they did to Oregon, you just mentioned it. The line of scrimmage, they own the line of scrimmage. And when we talk about this being an Oregon team who would address all the issues at the line of scrimmage, Indiana said, not so quickly. We get after the quarterback. We can run the football when we need to. And it is a remarkable, remarkable story about how to build a program really quickly and have the success that they're having.
And he talks so much about mindset, about being in the moment. And every coach does. I get every coach does. Fernando Mendoza threw a pick six in a hostile environment. Yes. It's 20-20, and you feel like, okay, now is when Oregon is going to exert its will. Control. Now is the moment where Oregon's going to take over this game. And Fernando Mendoza leads Indiana down. They score the go-ahead touchdown. They pick off 2 passes the rest of the way against a guy who hadn't thrown interceptions more. He'd thrown 1 interception all year. Dante Moore throws 2 at the end of this game. They believe everything that he's saying. You've been saying for years, right? Whatever is being said from the front of the room, the guys in the back of the room have to believe it.
Yeah.
And they believe everything that he's saying. And why wouldn't they believe it? The proof is in the pudding.
Google him.
You Google him, right? I mean, it is really amazing. But again, like, I think this is the weekend, I hope this is the weekend, where all of America said, this is real. And look, like, they beat Illinois by 53 points. And Illinois only lost to Ohio State by 18, and right? And Illinois beat USC, who beat Michigan. Like, They've already beaten a really good team like a drum this year. But to do this in Eugene, to me, it has to erase any doubt. They're a national championship contender. And by the way, I still think Oregon is too.
Absolutely.
But what do you make of what happened to Oregon?
Listen, I think as we continue, this season continues to move forward, I think what we've seen from Oregon, they're still one of the top teams in the country, without a doubt. But they had some turnovers, and most teams are going to have problems when they turn the football over. It's how you respond. It's, are you able to make the plays that are needed going down the stretch? And Indiana continued to get after the quarterback. And one of the things that wasn't happening necessarily from Oregon's standpoint is they weren't getting the tackles for loss. They weren't getting the sacks versus Indiana. And that sparked an interesting conversation in the green room. But can you win a national championship without really being disruptive at the line of scrimmage? And what we've seen this Indiana team do is continue to do that. But Oregon isn't going anywhere. Dante Moore isn't going to mess around and throw a bunch of interceptions in the coming game.
Right.
That's not going to happen. So they're going to rebound, and they're going to be right back at it. I thought one of the other comments that was really interesting with Coach Sig, he says, goes up to Mendoza after that, hey, you having fun yet?
Yeah.
Are you having fun yet?
Yeah.
After the pick, right? And he still goes out and puts it all together. The belief that these players have, not only in the coaching staff, but one another, is great to see in college.
The post-game interview with Mendoza, where he is handing out praise left and right, and I think that's the genuine. We spent some time around him.
Yes, that's who he is.
That is genuinely who he is. He is as nice a kid as you'll meet. He's as earnest a kid as you'll meet.
Yeah.
It's a remarkable tale. I think it tells us a lot more about Indiana, what happened this weekend, than it tells us about Oregon.
Yes.
Oregon's going to be fine.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
Oregon is a really good team.
We've been watching this Indiana team, really establish themselves as a program at a national level, and that's something that we haven't seen.
If you don't believe in Indiana at this point, I don't know what to say to you. Yeah. I don't know what to say.
I'm not going to say anything that I shouldn't. I might get fined and fired.
Right, the sports change. The sports change.
Yes.
Just accept it and
keep moving.
Enjoy what's out there, which is a fabulous
and then hope your team can
football team. Yes. Yes.
Big Ten Today is fueled by Gatorade.
Big Stack brought to you by Gatorade. Ohio State's win over Illinois, its 8th straight victory in games against ranked opponents. It's the longest active streak in the country. It's also tied for the second longest in Big Ten history, behind only a streak of 15 in a row set by, of all teams, the Buckeyes 6 years ago, and tied with another streak from, guess who? Ohio State. From the Jim Tressel era. They have had a few dominant teams, Howard.
Yes, they have.
Through the years. I would say this was not their most dominant effort. It may end up still being one of their most dominant teams. They were actually outgained in this game. But I think what's really interesting about this team is they know who they are and they know what they need to do to win. And this game, although it wasn't dominant, again, even though Illinois had more total yards, I still feel like it was never in doubt.
Yeah, and I think when you started to think about Illinois really starting to move the ball, you saw them do that. They were really, Ohio State was really playing more vanilla. They were playing a cover two, just keeping everything in front of them, giving up some of the stuff underneath, and Illinois was able to chew up some yardage that way. But when you watch this team, you talk about a team that knows who they are and goes out and does exactly what they need to do. This is a team that has a strong, elite style defense. And we talked about this offense as they continue to get better, and they make things happen in that way. But defensively, to me, they cause so many problems for you just from a personnel standpoint. And I'll say it again, this is about matchup players that they have. The players that they can line up at different positions is just incredible. And one of the reasons this team is going to make a deep run for a national title.
Ferocious defense. We saw 4 sacks. We saw them force 3 turnovers. From Illinois' perspective, I understand this was a huge game, and the excitement around this game in Champaign was off the charts. It didn't quite go as they wanted it to. Turnovers, uncharacteristically, were the issue.
Yeah.
And this is a team that hadn't turned it over much this year. In fact, they matched their season total for turnovers in one game. I just feel like it's kind of what Ohio State's going to do to people. There's no shame in what happened to Illinois.
They are going to press you. They are going to put you into difficult positions that you're ultimately going to have to try to overcome. Let's think about this. This Illinois team did something that teams haven't been able to do, go in the red zone and find a way to score.
Yes, they got a rushing touchdown,
exactly.
too. I wouldn't have done that either.
And so you saw the creativity that Illinois can come up with. And this goes back, this is all season, what they've been able to do offensively, but also defensively. You know, they really put up a fight. And they don't have some of their best players right now that have injuries. And so this Illinois team is going to be okay. But what they ran into is a team that is well coached and has elite players and that know exactly what they need to do when they go out on the football field and play. And it's so fascinating. They can have one receiver, Jeremiah Smith can go off. You know, Carnell Tate can go off.
Yes.
Bo Jackson can go off. They have so many weapons that are just coming of age that this is just going to be a tough team to deal with.
And yet, all that said, Illinois didn't give up a play longer than 25 yards in the game, and they had really had some defensive problems in recent weeks. Perhaps they figured some of those out. This would bode really well. They've got a bye. They're the last team in the Big Ten to get a bye, and then an enormous game coming up when they head out to Seattle to take on Washington. If they're going to stay in that college football playoff discussion, probably you'd say that of both these teams.
Yes.
That's going to be a really pivotal game. USC, meanwhile, remember USC went down to Champaign and lost to the Illini. Their first game since losing to Illinois was a home game against Michigan. And you want to talk about setting a tone. You want to talk about a line of scrimmage game against a line of scrimmage team. Man, USC went toe-to-toe against Michigan on that line, and they won those battles. They ran the ball right at a team that doesn't give up a whole lot of rushing.
And we sat here last week just previewing that game, taking a look, and that's what we talked about, winning the line of scrimmage, and something we hadn't necessarily seen this USC team do to this point. But USC played Michigan's game, and now USC feels good about themselves because they can run the football. They made a concerted effort to run the football and control the clock and come up with big plays. Oh, did anybody mention they're down to their 4th, 5th running back as well?
Yeah, and he ended up being our Saturday stand-up.
Yeah, exactly. So they have the players. It's just a matter of them executing. And to be able to see SC go out and really control the line of scrimmage was good, because the previous week they really struggled. Defensively was really impressive outing too. Again, at the line of scrimmage, getting after quarterback, nothing was easy for the team.
This is a Michigan team that has been pounding the ball. They had averaged 280 rushing yards the previous 3 weeks. They get 109 rushing yards. How concerned are you about Michigan? I mean, the truth of the matter is, I thought Andrew Marsh had a really good game. Like, yes. that was a headline and something positive you can take from it for Michigan. There wasn't a whole lot else positive you can take from it. And now you look at a team that's kind of thoroughly outplayed, that had an opportunity, I think, to really cement themselves in this CFP hunt. The schedule is pretty favorable going forward, frankly, for Michigan. I think if you look at the rest of these games, they got the home game against Washington. If you can get past the Washington game and somehow continue your magic against Ohio State, you could still be in that discussion, but the margin for error now is really slim.
It is very slim. And really, when you think about it, and yes, they have a young quarterback that we all believe is as talented and can play and do all the things that you need, a championship quarterback to be able to do, but he's going to have to make some strides really quickly for this team to be able to continue to chase some of the goals that they have. And it's no doubt that they have the ability to do it.
Yes. But
they're playing against some teams that also have some unbelievable players on their roster. We talked earlier in the season just about how many I believe elite quarterbacks are in this conference that can change games, can change the fortunes of your program. We're seeing that really play out real time. And Michigan's going to find themselves having to have one of their own play at a high level while trying to slow down an elite passer on the other side.
They did not have a lot of success with, again, it's a Lincoln Riley offense, really good. But Michigan hangs its hat on defense. I mean, this is the identity of that program, the toughness. We'll see whether they can get it back, because it's an elite offense that's coming in. We'll talk about Damon Williams in a few minutes here. But
will we? Yeah.
Man, he is awfully good. So USC gets a win. Yeah. Their crosstown rivals, UCLA, they get a win as well. They went to Spartan Stadium, and they absolutely manhandled Michigan State. This is an amazing story, because we talk a lot about resilience of young people. Yeah. And to be in the spot that UCLA was in, you're 4 games in. Remember, you can play 4 games and say, you know what, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah. You guys are making a decision at the head coaching position?
Yeah.
I'm going to make a decision as a player.
Exactly the opposite has happened. What has happened with this UCLA team is they have been galvanized. They have rallied around interim head coach who's doing an amazing job, around an offensive coordinator who's doing an amazing job. And we've seen the talent. And we thought, a guy doesn't become a 5-star quarterback by mistake.
Yes.
A guy doesn't lead a team to the college football playoff as a quarterback by mistake. And Nico Iamaleava is showing us why he's so highly touted.
I think you go back, the second half of the Northwestern game? Where
that's when the light went on for the whole team.
Exactly. It just looked different.
Yep.
It looked different. And they are responding. So whatever's happening in that locker room, you talk about, and I think part of it is there's a positive energy that is going through that program right now. And you can't help but notice it because it's showing up. I was talking earlier in the season that how impressed I was with the defensive tackles at UCLA. And they still, we're still getting pushed around. But these guys came into this game and really made their presence felt. And yes, I know that Michigan State is struggling a little bit right now from an offensive standpoint, but it just looked like UCLA was playing at another gear. It's like, forget what happened earlier in the year. That's not who we are. What we put on film the last 2 weeks is who we are. They are playing lights out. And yes, the players have got it figured out, but this coaching staff has done a tremendous job of pressing the right buttons. And I talk about that all the time. When you believe in the person in the front of the room and that person believes in you, this is what you get. This is what you see. And my point to this right here is Penn State needs to look no further than to what's happening right now at UCLA and believe that same energy can happen for them. And that's how quickly the fortunes can change.
It is incredible, and Tim Skipper deserves a ton of the credit. To your point, the players really deserve a ton of the credit too. I mean, you can't. Whatever a coach says up there, whatever he does, whatever plays are drawn up by a coordinator, and on down, your position coach, whatever. Ultimately, it's the young people who have to execute it. And they have executed it at a remarkable level. And you talk about the defense, and the defense has done an excellent job. Offensively, they were so stagnant. They were stagnant last year, too. Yeah. It's been a bad offensive team now for the first 16 games, right, going of their time in the Big Ten. And then all of a sudden, I mean, you go from a team that's averaging 14 points a game to a team that's averaging 40 points per game the last two. Part of it is coaching. Part of it might be X's and O's. Part of it might be that Jerry Newhousel's brought in some wrinkles. But again, you can't do it without talented players, and these guys have stepped up.
Yeah, so what happens? There's never been a offense, defense, or special teams game plan that was set up to fail. Never. Just doesn't happen. The question is, does that offense or defensive special teams game plan fit the personnel that are in that room?
Right.
And what we're seeing is whatever the scheme was that has been changed and adjusted, these players have embraced it, and now we're getting the best out of the players. There's the recipe, and then you talk about the positive energy that's going on right now. It's just one of those things. Again, another great story and another testament to when you make the right decisions and you get the right people in place, what young people are able to do.
Their most points in a road game as a conference member. They get Maryland at home this week. It's certainly a game that you could see going either way. Yeah. Where are we with Michigan State? This is the kind of game that they looked at and said, this is a chance for us to get right. And not only did they not get right, this was a non-competitive football game.
It wasn't good. And you talk about being able to rise to the level. They needed to rise to the level, right? Because UCLA was playing at a different one, and they didn't meet the energy or the passion that they had, and they've got to figure that part of it out. And this is still a good football team. I think they have good pieces in place, but the execution is just not there. And they've got to get it turned around.
It's both sides of the ball, too. I mean, they've given up at least 38 points in all three of their conference games. The last 2 weeks, they've gained less than 500 yards total combined.
It's a problem.
Last two games. I mean, we have teams getting 500 yards in a game. and you go 2 straight games, and then you look at the schedule and you say, guess what you get to do this week? You get to go to Bloomington. So,
isn't it funny? How funny is it, Dave, that, at the beginning of the year, you can look at a schedule, right? Or even when the schedule comes out. Here's what we can circle this.
Yes, this is a win. Right.
And then all of a sudden, I don't know.
Timing's a big part of it, right? Yeah. Timing's a big part of it. And I would say that, and this is in no way to discredit the next result. Like, Northwestern had some pretty good timing going into Penn State when they went into Penn State. However, it is up to the players to take advantage of it.
Yes.
And hats off to the Northwestern players, because there was a couple times here where Penn State opened up the door for them, and it was unclear, was Northwestern going to be able to walk through that door and get a win that I don't care what's going on the other side.
Yeah.
You go to State College, Pennsylvania, and you come away with a win in front of more than 100,000 fans on homecoming, you have done something.
And you don't play your best ball.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Northwestern made a ton of mistakes. Special teams were not special.
Well, you could say that.
Other than the kicker.
Yes.
Yeah, they kicked the ball well.
But here's it. They were able to overcome that, right?
Yes.
And you can have mistakes. You can go out and, but you don't allow it to become and compound itself, those mistakes. And Northwestern just kept staying steady. And again, it was another one of those games when you look at them being able to take advantage of what's happening up front in the line of scrimmage and being able to run the ball and being able to really put their quarterback in position, and they looked comfortable doing it. So, again, hats off to the players, but the coaching staff has done a tremendous job. And I talked about this Saturday, just all the plays that they left out on the field that they felt like versus UCLA. I thought that was an important message that Coach Brian talked about immediately following the game, and look what's happened the last couple of weeks.
And they responded well in this game. You had a punt blocked, you get an interception off of it. They had a muffed punt. That one actually led to a Penn State touchdown. But then later you end up with a penalty on a punt, and then Penn State fumbles away. Maybe the biggest play of the game. One thing that really stands out, offensive line is significantly better.
Yes.
It has really started to click up front for that group. They have two really good backs. Komalafe is really solid. I think Joe Hyman gives them some options coming out of the backfield. He's very fast he's a receiver. They're limited, frankly, in the wide receiver room. I mean, it's pretty much Griffin Wilde. But if you have Hyman and you're able to utilize him in some different ways. But when you need to run the ball and get a first down, they get the first down, and then they have the presence of mind, Hyman, to slide down at the 2-yard line and seal the game.
Exactly. And again, it's taking your program and to your team through situational football. You're in a hostile environment on the road, and they're able to overcome, as I mentioned earlier, some of their own self-inflicted situations that they brought upon themselves. It's still great to see, right? If you can come together as an offensive line, and you mentioned it, that's always been a group that's always been a little slower to come together when you have new pieces here and there, and just trying to come together. Five young people trying to be on the same page is never easy, but they were able to do it. And sometimes going on the road into a hostile environment when nobody gives you an opportunity to win galvanizes your team and brings everyone together, and the focus goes up.
They've had really good linemen in recent years, right? They've had a couple first-round picks on the offensive line. Peter Skronsky was unbelievable. Rashawn Slater is, I believe, the highest-paid offensive lineman in the NFL. Unfortunately, he's out for the year. But they haven't had good offensive lines. They haven't. It hasn't meshed for whatever reason.
And you can say that they have. You got an offensive line. You go on the road in a hostile environment and do what they did.
Yeah.
Things are coming together for this program.
No, good job. And obviously, we've talked a lot about Penn State. We don't need to dwell on what happened on that side. But for Northwestern, you had 4 wins now. Can you figure out a way to win at least 2 more?
Yeah.
And get yourself to a bowl game and maybe more than that. I remember in David Braun's first year, we were like, oh, can they squeeze out 2 more? And they ended up winning 8. So I mean, really, really impressive, especially when you consider where they were week 1 against Tulane. Up next on Big Ten today, the Huskers still very much in the CFP picture, how they rallied to take down the Terps, plus a rivalry beatdown at Madison. The Hawks starting to hit their stride. Nebraska is now 5-1. The Huskers scored the final 10 points of the game to edge Maryland 34-31 in College Park. It marked the first time since 2022 the Huskers had won a game they trailed entering the fourth quarter. Had lost their previous 12 such games. Dylan Raiola throwing for 4 touchdowns in the win.
Good day.
This is the kind of game they lost in the past. What does it tell you that they won it?
That they're turning the corner. At least that they're convincing themselves that they're not going to be the same old Cornhuskers in this situation. And I think that's an important part. You talk about growing from your experiences. This is one of those experiences they needed to continue to grow from. Coach Rule also talked about them just being a better football team, and that's going to be one of the reasons they won't be falling into the traps that they've been into before. But this was really a good job by them. You talk about the run game being able to be explosive, coming up with big plays. This is what they need. And then your quarterback is always going to be there and give you an opportunity. I think defensively, too. This is a team that's hitting their strides. And look where they are right now. Have a great opportunity when you look at the rest of the schedule.
They do indeed. Yeah, I mean, there's no ranked teams left on the schedule. So that helps them a lot. Well, actually, SC now. SC's ranked now, right? Yeah. So they're as of last week they were done, but now USC is back on there. So here you do see the schedule. SC at number 20. Obviously, you expected the most challenging game when you were looking at it, to your earlier point, being Penn State. Who knows? Maybe I will be ranked by that point. Maybe UCLA will be ranked.
You never know.
They get together. But that's the scenario there. So for Nebraska, sure. Yeah. Really manageable here going forward. You just got to figure out a way. You're not going to win many games where you turn it over 3 times from the quarterback spot. So that's big. From Maryland's point of view, man, these last 2 weeks feel like missed opportunities. You had the game kind of right there for the taking. Tackling really let them down. They did not tackle well at all in this game, particularly at the end.
And that's one of the issues that you have when you start to get toward the middle of the season. You're not doing as much tackling as maybe you were doing when you were in training camp, and things can get away from you. But I still believe, and this is the last couple of weeks when we talk about this Maryland team, that these were games that obviously they would lose, and they did lose this game, but they would look bad from quarter number one. This is a team now that we're seeing that's being able to play 3 quarters, but for whatever reason, getting into the fourth and they're not able to finish. And they've got to get to that point where they can finish these games off because they're playing well for the first 3 quarters.
2-6 in one-score games since 2023. Feels familiar. The team on the other side of the field this week knows a lot about that. But again, it seems like maybe Nebraska is turning the corner on that front. We mentioned it earlier, UCLA and Maryland. I mean, it's a huge game for Maryland. Like, Maryland's got to figure out a way to get that game, to get some positive momentum going, because after that, they get Indiana at home after a bye week. Okay, how about Iowa? Just manhandling Wisconsin. 37-0. Who they are this week look like an awfully good team. Now, they were aided and abetted by the team on the other side. And we can talk about Wisconsin. There are a lot of problems there. Yeah. But, man, Iowa, I mean, defense, we know they're going to be good defensively. It feels like this offense is churning a little bit now. You get an injured running back who had a really big game in Xavier Williams and Mark Gronowski. Again, look, they're not going to light it up as a passing game, but good enough. And man, they defensively were suffocating.
And what we talked about with this offense, if they are just good enough offensively, what this team would look like. And you've seen the points that they've been able to produce lately, and that's encouraging. Talk about being able to get your players back. We knew this was going to be a much improved offensive line, and that's continuing to show itself. This Iowa team is finding ways in scoring points and doing some of the things that you were hoping you would expect them to be able to do once they had someone under center that could stay healthy and could push the ball down the field. They're getting that now. And when you think about who they did it against and what's happening right now in Madison, it's tough to watch sometimes.
It is. I mean, I think we have to kind of talk about the elephant in the room in this game, which is this just isn't the Wisconsin team that we have come to expect. I mean, this was a really poor performance. You get shut out at home by Iowa. It's the first time that had happened. First time Iowa had gone into Camp Randall and beaten the Badgers in a shutout since 1929. Yeah. It is a long time since we have seen a performance like this from Wisconsin. I understand, look, you're at your third quarterback, essentially. It certainly isn't the way that you expected to. It's not the guy you expected.
No.
He was an insurance policy, and he's your starting quarterback now and has been for a couple games. But they really had no answer at all on the defensive side. I mean, it just feels like it's kind of.
Where do you hang your hat?
I don't know. And what's the identity? What's the identity of the program right now? Who are they?
We don't know. They're still looking to establish that, and I think that's what's so tough when you watch this, because we're accustomed to seeing them play a certain brand of football and be able to be successful in what it is that they're doing. And then you could always say, well, you know what? This offensive line, they'll be what they need. They'll just run the football and they'll just have to win tight games. But we're not seeing that either. So, they have some answers that they need to figure out inside that locker room as well, because this is a program that should be playing much better right now. 4
straight games under 300 yards of offense. And we talked at the outset of the season, the schedule is absolutely brutal. And you look at now the next 2 games, I mean, it's Ohio State at home and at Oregon. Yeah. So I don't know that you necessarily get well in that situation. No, it's not a great spot to be in. Still a couple more games to get to. Washington's offense back in gear after a Friday night win over Rutgers. Plus, it wasn't the prettiest win for the Gophers, but they will gladly take it. Keep it here on Big Ten Today. Washington taking down Rutgers 38-19 on Friday night. Damon Williams was incredible. He threw for 402 yards. He ran for 136. He's the first Big Ten quarterback to throw for 400 in a game and run for 100 since Northwestern's Zach Kustok in 2001. It's been a while. The win moves the Huskies to 5-1, heading into a huge game that we've already talked about against Michigan. I mean, when they are clicking, this offense is really good.
And fun to watch.
Oh,
the playmakers that they have. And Jonah Coleman hasn't even gotten going the last couple of weeks.
Right.
That's what's scary. You think about that, but Damon Williams And this is what we talk about, having a difference maker under center and how that changes the fortunes of your program and can put you in a position where we watched him be bottled up versus Ohio State early. And then all of a sudden they started to make some plays. And this is really just a dynamic player, an unbelievable passer of the ball from the pocket at his size, which I'm telling you, his ability to anticipate where his wide receivers are going to be, throwing his players open, is huge. And, you got Boston out there on the edge.
And how about Roebuck?
Whoa. I mean, they've got weapons.
Yeah.
And this is a team, you talk about exciting and fun to watch. Man, this is a team that's going to cause some problems.
No doubt. Again, they're 5-1. I mean, you got Michigan, Illinois next 2 games. If you win those games, you're right there. You're absolutely in that discussion. Let's talk quickly about Rutgers. It feels like this is a familiar refrain, which is they move the ball pretty well and they can't stop the opponent from moving.
And that's been the issue, right? And we've talked about this, prior weeks, that we're so accustomed to seeing them play really good special teams and defensively,
right,
and struggled offensively. Now things have flipped, and they've got to find ways to win games, by outscoring people, because for whatever reason, the struggles that they're having defensively are not really helping them be able to win football games.
Nearly 500 yards of offense, and still this game was not in doubt at the end. They get what figures to be an angry Oregon team at home this week, so that might be the bad timing award. Finally, Minnesota, 14-0 in the fourth quarter, and they figure out a way against Purdue in a game that P.J. Fleck would be the first to tell you. In fact, he did tell us. I'm sorry, he was, in fact, the first to tell us that it wasn't their best performance. But you know what? If you are good enough to win a game when you don't play great, that's a sign of a good team.
And it's also a sign of really a good coaching staff and what PJ has been able to do at Minnesota, right? He's another team, right, that has found a different way to win football games. And that's good. You're going to sometimes win these or end up in these ugly games, and knowing that you have the confidence, you're building that confidence going down the stretch, that if you don't play your best game, that you're going to still be able to come out with a win. Because this Purdue team, man,
it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
That's not a gimme for anybody.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
4 turnovers in this game did them in.
Yeah.
These next 2 weeks, like you go to Northwestern, then you got Rutgers. Like I just feel like they're on the verge.
They're right there.
I think both those teams know.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, all you have to do is turn on the tape, and you know this team can move the ball. But again, 12 straight conference losses for them. We'll see if they can get it going. And speaking of the game against Northwestern, we've got it part of our doubleheader on Saturday, 3 o'clock Eastern time on the Big Ten Network. And then we've got that game between Oregon and Rutgers in prime time, 6:30 Eastern time. It all starts with countdown to kickoff, special time, 2:30 Eastern, 11:30 Pacific on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. Howard and I are going to wrap things up next. Halfway through the season, it has been wild. We will reflect on a crazy first 7 weeks of football. Stick around. It is time to go around the Big Ten, starting with an insane finish in Madison for the #1 ranked Wisconsin women's hockey team Saturday. They trailed Minnesota Duluth 3-2, less than 30 seconds remaining. Caroline Harvey tied it up. And then, with less than 15 seconds left in regulation, Cassie Hall scored to give the Badgers the win. They followed it up with a 4-0 shutout on Sunday to improve to 6-0 on the season. Nebraska volleyball program continued its dominant start to the season, sweeping 12th-ranked Purdue in West Lafayette on Sunday. The top-ranked Huskers are now 16-0. They have swept their last 7 straight opponents. Big day in college hoops. The AP Top 25 for the preseason is out, and look who is #1. The Purdue Boilermakers. First time in school history they have been the preseason #1. They've obviously spent a lot of time atop the polls over the last handful of seasons. They are the top team in the country heading into the year. 3 of the top 12 in the Big Ten, with Michigan and UCLA next, and then you see 6 of the top 25. That is tied for the most of any conference. Finish up with football. Every team in the Big Ten has now played 6 games, other than Illinois, which has played 7. So halfway point of the season, the very top isn't all that shocking. Ohio State, Indiana, both playoff teams from last year. 9 teams have one conference loss. Wow. They include traditional powers like Oregon, Michigan, USC, as well as massive surprises, UCLA and Northwestern. 5 teams have yet to win a Big Ten game, and that group includes Wisconsin, Michigan State, and the preseason number 2 team in the country, Penn State. So, Howard, you have exactly 1 minute to make sense of it all.
I think this has just been where we are right now in college athletics, particularly on the football side of things. So much can change within 1 year with NIL in the portal. It's just amazing, and it's fun for a lot of fan bases. I will tell you this. I think Terry Smith is going to do an unbelievable job in his role as an interim head coach at Penn State. He's going to galvanize this program. The players really love him, and he does a great job. He was one of the few guys, call guys glue guys on the staff. He was that guy for James Fraklin. Now he gets his opportunity to lead this program.
Really happy for him. It was evident in the news conference today how much Penn State means to him, and to have a chance when you're in a little bit of a crisis.
Yes, to save it.
And I would say they're in a little bit of a crisis to step in and try to right the ship. I'm sure he will do a great job. We'll see you on Tuesday on Big Ten Today.